Morning, everyone. A lot has happened since Friday. Republicans got some amazing news Friday when the Virginia Supreme Court struck down Democrats' new map. A lot of gloating here in Washington. They are obviously riding high right now after that ruling. But the big question right now is how much will that matter with the political environment right now that is super against Republicans? You're going to want to hear Dan and Sean debating this. They were texting about it a few minutes ago. Very different takes, as you can imagine, in terms of which one will outweigh the other, the political environment or the redistricting war that Republicans have.
By the way, if you were a premium member and were on Friday, with yours truly was the one who did it, we were on air when that came down. When I got a text from one of my friends before it was in the news, a few seconds, and I literally, in the middle of someone's question, went, holy, starts with an F, ends with a K, and repeated it again.
You can't say that on YouTube, Dan.
And
everyone can say that in a private Zoom
frog, Dan?
Yes, and everyone on the Zoom. And then we chatted about it before anyone else because we were live on the premium. So
just another reason to become a premium member. There you go. Democrats, by the way, are desperate right now to stop this map from reverting back to the original 5 or 6-5 map drawing. They are looking at some Hail Marys right now. Pretty desperate Hail Marys. I'm excited to hear Dan's take on some of this, but New York Times has a good story out there. We're going to talk about that. The president, meanwhile, is headed to China in a couple of days for this historic trip. You're going to want to keep listening to hear what some foreign policy experts are actually a little bit nervous about, and which we should be watching for, of course. Also, in other foreign policy news, president has rejected Iran's counteroffer. Surprise, surprise. Now what is the big question we'll discuss. And AOC is once again setting the political world a Twitter with questions about her future based on something she said in an interview just a couple of days ago. We'll talk about that and play some of the sound. But before we jump in, guys, did everyone treat their moms really well yesterday, I hope, and their wives?
Oh, yeah.
I got to say that there's a big thing. I don't know, Dan, where you come down on this, but like I was saying in our house yesterday, like I called my mom, I got her gifts, and my kids were like, what are we doing for Mother's Day? And I'm like, I know what I'm doing for my mom. You guys are teenagers. What are you doing? Like, there's an element of which I kind of feel like, I don't know where that threshold is for kids, where I'm like, you're responsible for Mother's Day.
Really?
You know, huh?
I just do everything is from all of us, right? It's not, you know,
let's be clear. I do it all, but I'm just saying at some point I'm like, you know, I'm like, you know, when do the kids actually start to own Mother's Day? Because I think, you know, in your teens, that's a pretty good switch over, right? Where they can go get things, etc.
This is what I'll say. I think your kids should definitely do their own thing, but you should also do something there, Sean.
Doesn't
excuse you.
I'm 100% in on it. I mean, like, without getting into it, I did a pretty darn good job. I'm just saying, like, you know,
good.
There is a difference.
What do you think he gave the hydrangeas to there? He gave them to his, I mean,
there was a lot of. We will discuss this with one of our sponsors, but there was some product.
There you go.
And I mean, enough about us and what did the men, how was, you know, our Mother's Day?
Yeah, how was yours?
One mom on the screen. How was yours?
I was going to say, good pivot, Dan. Good
Thank
pivot.
you.
My Mother's Day was awesome, I have to tell you. I'm still a little sick from last week, but I had a great day. I spent Saturday night, 2.5 hours watching old videos of my daughter from the time she was born until like now. And just like
by yourself,
feeling all warm and fuzzy, and just seeing some videos that I had totally forgotten about. So great.
Were you by yourself? Was this like everyone had gone to bed? Like you were just sitting there?
Everyone had gone to bed, and I was sitting on the couch watching them. And of course, I was bawling my eyes out.
All right.
There's something nice about growing up in the age of video, where you can look on your phone and go back and be like, holy smokes, look at what they look like back then.
I mean, literally just 6 months. The difference in 6 months at the age of between 3 and 4, 6 months is like a huge difference in kids in terms of their talking. So anyway, I won't, I could go on and on about my daughter. I'm not going to do that on this show because we actually have some news to talk about. So let's look at the day book here first. 5:30, the Senate and House are back, by the way. So they'll be voting on cloture in the Senate for Kevin Warsh. There we go. Finally going to get a new Federal Reserve Board of Governors chair. So that is expected. Let's
Powell's term ends Friday. So
I was going to say, later
the
this.
assumption is he will be confirmed.
He'll be confirmed. 10:30, the president has a maternal health care event. At 1:30, he has a policy meeting. 3 o'clock, he's signing executive orders. 4 o'clock, oh, you guys will like this. He is hosting the national champion Indiana University football team at the White House. Press will come in for that one, right?
100%.
Sean, any state senators from Indiana you think going to be there too? Or
no?
No?
Good call. Good call. Oh, yeah. I didn't even think of that. I was thinking of Jim Banks in the back of my mind real quick, but I think you're absolutely right.
Maybe some new nominee, some party. I mean, once you win the primary, you could come to the White House, right?
Yeah, that's a good call. I like that.
That's actually, I mean, they've had a pretty good past couple days. They might as well, take more of a victory lap there. He would never put the athletes on the spot, though, about the primary and the state elections there.
Why not?
I don't know. That would be super awkward. Just curious. 5:30, the president has another policy meeting. Before we jump in, though.
Wait, and then 7 o'clock, the club is open tonight. It's Monday night, Rose Garden dinner.
Okay, there you go. Sean and Dan, will you be there? No, of course not, but we wish. Maybe someday.
I have a Maha dinner to go to, so unfortunately.
Lot to talk about in Maha.
Yeah, and there's a big Medal of Honor. There's a lot going on tonight. Medal of Honor reception. Maha.
A certain FDA chief and what's going on there.
John, who do you think's at the club tonight? House folks? Is this a little like we got some Mo? What
I've always found, I don't know, the last few have been mixes. Like, I don't know that there's a
really.
So we'll see.
All right. Before we jump in, let's do a word from our sponsors. API guys, you learned a lot from Mike Summers last week. He was awesome. Top takeaway. Settle in on the gas prices a little bit because it's going to be a while probably before things come down. But Sean, a word from our American Petroleum.
The other big takeaway that I thought that Mike left us with is that there's over $1 million in infrastructure. I mean, we're talking like pipelines, power lines, roads, all this broadband stuff that like could be moving forward and could be creating jobs. But we've got a federal permitting problem right now. The average project is 4 to 5 years down the road because of this. But I mean, again, when we're talking about an election year, when jobs and the economy are number one, and frankly, and one of the drivers of that is energy costs. All of that could get addressed if these guys came together and passed permitting reform. You're talking like 6 years in the case of that Mountain Valley pipeline that Mike talked about, and the costs tripled along the way. So it's not some hypothetical esoteric thing. It's literally something that Congress can do right now on a bipartisan basis to get jobs moving, get the economy moving, get energy costs down. So if Congress will pass permitting reform now, we could actually on a bipartisan basis make a ton of progress. So if you're interested in learning more or urging Congress to do exactly that, go to permittingreformnow.org. That's permittingreformnow.org.
And while you're at it, you should start thinking about your skincare regime. Guys, we have a new sponsor I'm excited to talk about. You've heard me mention on the show. I love moisturizer. It's like the first thing I do when I get out of the shower, I just douse myself in moisturizer. Well, I have a new moisturizer that I'm using. I'm going to tell you about it today. Hold on. Let me just pull up my notes here. I just literally lost this.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, guys.
So good.
So this is not your standard moisturizer. I
like moisturizer too.
Yeah. This is called OneSkin. It is actually engineered, and it has this new peptide called OS1 peptide that fights wrinkles. It is proven to target these visible signs of aging. You've heard me say, I don't want wrinkles. So this is something that's very important to me. It turns out, and I learned this actually from the company, that as we age, some of our skin cells, they stop functioning the way that they should. Scientists call them zombie cells. And that is what actually drives those visible signs of aging, those fine lines, the loss of firmness, the dullness that creeps in over time. And that's why you need this new peptide. It's called, again, OS1 peptides. OneSkin. I'm just starting it. I got it in the mail a couple of weeks ago, and I have been using it, both the moisturizer, but also the eye cream. So for those nights where you don't get a lot of sleep, using the eye cream there too. And, the results are backed by 4 peer-reviewed clinical studies. They have over 10,000 5-star reviews, and they've been recognized by Bloomberg as a leader in skin longevity. So I'm excited to use this. Again, OneSkin. And if you haven't checked it out already, go online right now. Go to oneskin.co, not com, oneskin, ONESKIN.co, and use my code HUDDLE for 15% off. That's oneskin.co. Use my code HUDDLE for 15% off. Check that out. I don't know if you guys are into skincare, but like,
by the way, I would just say this, and I'll wait for my turn. But just since you brought it up, I've been using OneSkin for probably 2.5 years. So,
oh, really?
I was excited. Yeah, it's.
I didn't even know that.
Well, I don't share my skincare routine, but I
Well,
will.
you
Maybe you should. Yeah, exactly.
But so here's the deal, and this sounds completely dorky, but since we're on this conversation, we got to get off it quick.
It's Monday.
There is a Tony Robbins book that came out, and I have it upstairs. I can show it to you, about 2 years ago, where he talks about all these revolutionary products. And one of them was OneSkin. And he said, for guys in particular, he talks about a lot of the things you just mentioned, Rachel. And so I went out, and when I buy something, I don't buy one. I buy, like, if I like a shirt, I'll go all in. And so I have, like, literally, so when they approached us about sponsoring, I'm like, this is awesome, because I already use it. I've been using it for a couple of years. And it was in I can literally, like I said, it was in Tony Robbins's book, where he had a whole series of products that he talked about why they, why he liked them. And so I took my advice from Tony, and
look at those peptides in there. And firming it up. Good stuff. All right. Well, when we talk about OneSkin later this week, I have more questions for you about this, but I'm not going to drag them out right now.
I just embrace the wrinkles.
Let's talk about redistricting. So it literally just a week and a half ago, we were asking the question, was the redistricting fight worth it? And it wasn't just, reporters. It was Republicans too. I have to say that I got a number of calls from Republicans who were particularly angry with the Trump political operation. I had people pitching, trash and dirt on James Blair, who runs that operation. Now, though, James Blair is sitting pretty and saying, who told you so? Who's your daddy right now? I mean, they are at least 10 seats, 11 seats toward Republicans, have been shifted toward Republicans.
Cook moved to 11, yeah.
And there is, like, no doubt that the Republicans have won this redistricting war. That point blank. Well, you can ask about whether that will make the big difference in the midterms, will help them keep the House. We'll get to that in a minute. But Sean, like, just start reflecting on that, because, like, the GOP reaction to this, Republicans were super angry at them for a long time, but between the Voting Rights Act being struck down, between what happened in Indiana when they flexed and got revenge on a lot of those state senators that defied them on redistricting, and then now Virginia, like, it has just been a complete 180 in terms of their fortunes and how they are seen in the party.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, we on this show talked about what that would mean. I think I started to get very bullish on this, because when you looked at the 4 tenets, the 4 violations of the law, it was very hard for the Supreme Court to overlook all 4. I mean, they were math issues in many cases that you couldn't just ignore. And the momentum shifted real quick, because that's, Florida picked up 4, and that was outside of the voting rights decision of the court. Then the decision came down. And ironically, I mean, I think that when it's all said and done, that voting rights decision, it's probably going to be 3 to 4 seats in, like, for this session of for this term, right? So there'll be additional redistricting after in the 2028 cycle, the 2030 cycle, the 2028 year. But the net, but if you think about it, you got 4 in Virginia, 4 in Florida, 3 to 4 post VRA, and then 4 back from Virginia. And I think, to your point, there's a lot of folks that made it very clear, hey, we funded these lawsuits. The name of the lawsuit in Tazewell County is RNC v. Tazewell, right? So they're very bullish on saying, James Blair, as I tweeted out the other night, at Friday night, was probably sitting back with a big cigar and multiple adult beverages saying, I told you so. Yeah. And the funny part is, just to be clear, even though they filed the suits, I talked to some very senior folks in the last 10 days. And I said, hey, Ken Cuccinelli is making a very compelling case on this in terms of the merits of, and they all poo-pooed it. They said, Ken's on an island. Ken's just, he, again, nothing disparaging, just that no one agreed. They didn't have any hope for the justices going the right way. So this was I said this after we won in 2016. when you win and you're supposed to win, it feels good. When you lose, but you know you're going to lose, you feel bad. When you win and you thought you were going to lose, that's like a great feeling. And that's what it was on Friday. Like everybody assumed that the court was going to rule in the favor of Democrats. So this was huge for us momentum wise. You've seen the finger pointing, you've seen the donors, and you've seen what now they're in a tizzy about where to go next.
I want to get to finger pointing in a minute, but first, Dan, the New York Times has this pretty incredible scoop about what Dems are looking to do in terms of trying to push back on this. I mean, some of it sounds frankly kind of crazy. I'm curious if you think they'll go through it. The reporting indicates that Jeffries and a bunch of lawmakers got on a call this weekend, and they were trying to find out, like, can they basically redraw anyway? And one idea that was thrown out was throwing out or trying to push out these justices and try to reinstate the map, and doing so by basically having the General Assembly pass legislation that makes it mandatory. Mandatory to retire at 54. So right now, I guess the age is 75.
By the way, just so we clear why the 54 is the youngest justice of the Supreme Court in Virginia is 54.
Yeah. So basically try to pass legislation, lowering that age, push them out, put some new folks in there, and then reinstate the map. Dan, do you think they'll proceed with this?
No, I don't. I think this is one of those where you maybe would win the battle, but if you're Spanberger and others in the state, you got to worry about losing the war, which is to say that you so damage the party brand that in, I think it's another year, you have the midterm state races in Virginia, and then obviously the governor's race, because the governor of Virginia can only serve one term. That's just always the way it's been. And the party faces a wipeout because even the redistricting push prior to this, it only passed by whatever it was, 1.5, 2 points. It wasn't as popular as the, kind of DR brands of the two parties have been the last several years there. So I do think Spanberger, who never really was in love with this to begin with, Mark Warner, others, I don't see them doing something like this. But, look, like everybody in all these states, Democrats and Republicans, everyone's looking under every rock to see what are the legal options that we have to try to squeeze another seat, here or there, because the map just got much tighter. And I mean, we'll get to that here in a second, but I don't think they will go through with that.
Yeah, Jim Moran was saying it was a bridge too far, a longtime Democrat from Virginia. I should also mention here that
quick two side notes. Number one, I think this is extremely worth noting. The justice who wrote the opinion is a Democrat, appointed by and reconfirmed by Democrats. This was not a Republican push by the court. This was a Democratic-led effort. Okay, so the next time that Hakeem Jeffries talk about the dummy Mandarin and the extreme court, remember his own party stopped him on this. Number two, memo to Jay Jones. As someone that is grammatically challenged, sir, I know you want to kill your political opponents, but you might want to invest in spell check. When he filed his writ to the Supreme Court, he misspelled 3 key words. 1, Virginia. 2, senator. 3, attorney. I'm just saying, if you're going to actually file a writ with the Supreme Court, Mr. Attorney General, you might want to run it through spell check first. It's an embarrassment to the Commonwealth.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. I should also mention,
I look forward to the Donald Trump truth spell checks and grammar checks.
The CBC, I should also mention.
Well, I'm just saying, I will admit my challenges, Dan.
Okay.
Since I've taken my hits off, I just wanted to share them.
Yes. Okay.
I was going to say, I can't criticize. I'm like the worst at spelling. So, the CBC is also coordinating behind the scenes, it looks like, working with Elias Law Group and the Legal Defense Fund to challenge these redistricting efforts state by state in the South. But those lawsuits, I mean, to be clear, like, I assume those would drag out, or maybe they would be dismissed right away, actually, by local courts. I don't know. Like, Dan, do you think the CBC has any prayer at stopping some of these changes in the southern states, like before the midterms?
I think what they're going to try to hang their hat on is kind of the same thing that they did in Virginia, which is was every procedural step followed to a T, and where there may be a gap or something was skipped, or they're going to try to the Republicans would try to argue the intent versus the letter of the law. look, this is what the legal system is about. This is what the kind of hand-to-hand combat of all of this is about. I don't think they will be successful, but perhaps they will, trip somebody up and it'll delay it long enough that at least for one more year, they can hold a seat or two. And that may be the difference.
Last thing before we go to the bigger environment.
Can I just real quick on that, Rachel? I think it's important for two reasons. One, Dan's always noted the enormous power of the CBC and people like Jim Clyburn have. Yeah. And I don't think that can be understated. They are titans. And when you talk about them in particular, Clyburn getting right. I will say this. I gave Jim Clyburn a lot of credit for how he approached this redistricting on the Sunday shows. He said, I'm running for re-election. I've made a strong case. I'm a good representative. I actually think that's the way to approach this, which is I'm good at what I do. I represent the people of South Carolina well, and I'm going to continue to make that case. I actually gave him credit for how he approached this, but I do think that there is a bigger discussion about the impact of the CBC and some of these guys going forward. This is like we talk about Pelosi patching the torch to Hakeem Jeffries. Clyburn stuck around, and who is the next leader? And obviously a much smaller CBC will exist after this. But there's fundamentally like the thing that also is interesting to me is the overall argument, right? And I just saw Ro Khanna posted a clip about, well, if black representation, they've never, like, there is black representation. As I've said, all of the seats that black Republicans hold are not majority minority districts. They're actually largely white districts. The problem is that Democrats have to wrestle with this question of is that constituency one that guarantees you a seat in the Democratic Party? And if so, what are we going to do about it? But you're not entitled to a seat because you're the color of your skin. I mean, you run, and if you run a good campaign, you win. And if the Democrats believe that's a priority, I've noted this before, they should either change their rules, change their campaign tactics, meaning you endorse or fund people of color. But Republicans have no problem with this. We have 4 right now that ran in districts and won because they were the best candidate in the race. And I think this is the fundamental problem that the Democratic Party has to wrestle with right now.
I agree. The entitlement question is a very sticky question, thorny question in the party, because you listen to some of these CBC members and they are talking about there needs to be a black seat versus there needs to be a Democratic seat. But to your point, Sean, this goes to dynamics about committee chairs. This goes to the dynamic of seniority. And it's a generational issue as much as it is.
Well, it's also 2028. You think about the role that Clyburn played. Dan, you've mentioned the role of South Carolina in the next primary. If Clyburn is out of office, right, which he would be, does he still have the power? Is he still the broker in South Carolina? Does he have the sway with the DNC? There's a lot of existential questions that come out of this that I don't think are fully felt yet.
Yeah, agreed.
I want to get to the debate about the environment versus the redistricting war in a second, but just very quickly, Dan, on the finger pointing, like is it as bad as you thought it would be? I mean, you thought there would really be it would just be ugly this weekend, people coming after Spanberger and Jeffries and people who, $65 million that was spent on this, or do you feel like they're already pivoting to just plotting the next steps and how can they get back?
I think in the immediate, they're plotting to see what they can do. But I think when the reality sets in that there is not much they can do, you're going to see some more in the public, because ultimately, why will they not likely move forward with this judicial retirement switch? Because Spanberger and those who never really believed in this to begin with are going to say, no, we got to move on, because they recognize, again, kind of the battle versus the war. And I think there is frustration in the Democratic caucus in DC about that's a lot of money we just spent. And how come nobody saw the judicial risk kind of on the horizon? I also think it's remarkable how unprepared the party seemed that this was going to be struck down. The freak out has surprised me a little, because at least the people I've talked to knew increasingly this was a real risk. Yeah. And yet it seems like broader in the caucus in Washington, it shocked people.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask one question, Dan? On you in your world, I'm wondering if I'm a donor and I just pissed away $80 million on this redistricting effort, and then I hear even if it's just floated, right? I mean, I don't think that the Supreme Court thing is real, but if I'm a Dem donor, I'm reading the New York Times and I hear, yeah, we're just going to fire every justice on the Supreme Court that's under 54, over 54. I got to go, you got to be kidding me. You guys, that's your plan. And so I get that might not be real, but how does that affect the donor mindset, which says, oh, holy smokes, these guys are in the wilderness?
Well, I think what it
had to try. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that the feeling is the party is fighting everywhere it can. It's trying everything it can. Look, Sean, in the blue sky world, they say, look, they suspended a primary to adopt a new map, like literally with ballots out, because they want to try to pick up a seat. So we will try to do anything that we can do. And so I think the hysteria of like, we have to do everything we can to win is still gripping the party.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say one other thing on this, and that is like I had asked people about whether there would be blowback on Jeffries, and the response I got was like, flip it a little bit. Imagine if Jeffries hadn't leaned in on this, and then he would just be, the base would be furious. He wouldn't be like, there would be more questions about whether he could be speaker, like he might not get certain progressive votes. And like the base would just be furious. So that was the sort of response.
Tell you what we haven't talked about, but we're going to have to talk about in the future. How comfortable is Hakeem if Dems don't win the House?
Oh boy, that would be
with the CBC diluting.
That's actually a good segue to where I want to go next and last with this conversation. And that is like,
you're welcome.
Again, this debate about the political environment, because Dan, like your text this morning, you're like, look, the point is this is still a great environment for Democrats. Even if Republicans won this redistricting war, the question is like, which one do voters vote? Like, which one is going to impact the midterms more? Like, who wins out here? And can it really overcome like $5 gasoline? Right? Can it overcome $5 gasoline?
Look, I don't think somebody walking down the street in Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan is like, boy, the Virginia Supreme Court said this, so I'm now going to vote for my R. I think the macro environment of, as you said, the war in Iran, the frustration with Trump on like all these issues, we're still whatever it is, 34-0, right? So I mean that has not changed. What has changed is our margin of error in the House now is getting very tight, because I think right now there are 18 seats that are currently rated by Cook, and Cook is basically the Bible on this stuff, as true toss-ups. And now if you factor in all this redistricting, and Republicans are going to have basically a 10-seat majority, and of the 18, 14 are held by Republicans, 4 by Democrats. What you are now talking about is you have to hold every one of your seats, all 4. You probably have to win 12 to 13 of those toss-ups now.
Right.
And that is, then you get into seats that lean one way or the other. So I still think the environment favors Democrats today. Sean is probably going to say this. You can't discount momentum. Republicans now feel like we're in the game. Trump is an amazing political athlete. We have more money than God on our side. So you feel like you have a chance now. Like you were telling yourself you had a chance on the R side before. Now you
really believe it.
Right. Yeah. And conversely, if you were on the Democratic side, you were literally talking about what investigations are we launching on January 2nd, and who's going to be staff director, and like who's going to go back to Capitol Hill from K Street, and like now you're like, we may not win. And by the way, Chuck Schumer now is saying to people, and I'm not literally, but yes, literally in private, your best bet may be the Senate, not the House.
Nobody believes that. I'm sorry. Nobody believes that.
Really?
I really don't think so. No. I still think it'd be easier to flip the House than flip the Senate. But I want to hear Sean's take on.
No, I'll let Dan finish, because I want him to be on record on this.
Hold on. If you guys go through the mess, so do you guys both agree the House just got a lot tighter now?
It definitely got harder for Democrats. Mm-hmm.
This doesn't
the right to object.
Right. This doesn't touch Senate seats in any way because they're statewide.
Right.
They think right now that they have their 4 because they think Alaska, and I know you guys disagree. But if you're Schumer, you can now say, look, if you only have $1, we may be, whereas before we would have all laughed at it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like, if I was Schumer, I would definitely make that case, but I still think it's more likely the House flips than the Senate. Just gut instinct there. But Sean, like, let me
work backwards on the Senate.
Yeah,
I actually extremely confident that Republicans will maintain a majority there. Extremely confident. You go through race by race, we'll be fine. On the House,
circle that right there.
Yeah, circle that.
May 11th,
on the
9
House
a.m.
side, I'm not saying it's going to be pretty, but I mean,
Yeah.
again, you go through these races and you realize what it would take to overcome some. Even, again, we can spend some time. We've talked about this. We'll start digging into the Senate race a little further. On the House side, when you actually start counting all of the seats up and who's where, this is where I have the House. 212. Oh wait, hold on. I got to go back up. But I've got us roughly at 212 seats on the Republican side. So you can fudge a little, you can call it 210, but everyone has somewhere between the lowest is 208 and the highest I saw was like 213, right? And the Dems are between 207 and 211. And then you've got between 13 and 18 toss-ups. But here's my point to Dan. I had us right now, the way I counted, at 212 Republicans with the leaners. Okay. That means we're 6 seats short of maintaining a majority. And you've got $400+ million sitting out there. Yep. You actually have to go candidate by candidate. So one of the examples I use is the Lawler seat, right? Like, I think Mike Lawler is going to be in really good shape. He's running a great race. He's very in tune with his district, raised a lot of money, defined his opponent well. These aren't when pundits, when people in the media generally talk, they go historically. That's not how you run a race. You don't go historically, you're supposed to lose, so just give up today. You actually have to look at who the candidates are, how much they're raising, how much they're spending, what they're spending it on, the mechanics of the campaign, all that kind of stuff, especially in a midterm. And right now, we're 6 seats short of maintaining a majority. The math is with us. The headwinds are 100% against us. I agree with Dan. The environment sucks. Like, there's no question I would rather be running as a Democrat in one of those toss-up seats than a Republican. But the money and the math are on our side to maintain the majority. And that's what I don't think anyone in the media has a clue how to do addition, because that's where I'd go, okay, if you only have to win 6 of those toss-up seats, you actually, the odds are actually in your favor. You'd have to run the table for the Democrats to take over.
Well, I think, again, I do believe today we would win the House still, but close. But here's the other thing, too. If our margin, this is the Mike Johnson problem, is 2, and let's say 15 seats that Trump won, it's going to be hard to be Hakeem Jeffries holding that caucus together going into 2028 and a whole nother round of redistricting. And so, like, if you had a 10 or 15 seat majority, you have a little more breathing room. You can afford to lose 2 or 3 for political reasons and say, okay, go be with the R's. But this would be tough sledding. I mean, you still have the gavels, so that's all that matters.
Remember, so just the Cook report, we mentioned it, 11 seats that Democrats had thought in the last 2 weeks they were going to win.
Yep.
But they're now going to lose.
11 have moved to the Republican side. That's I mean, to Dan's point, it's
huge.
The aperture keeps closing.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
absolutely.
Huge.
Absolutely. It's hard.
Okay, guys, let's move on to Iran. We'll keep this tight because I want to get to China. I think that's going to be a great conversation. So the president yesterday afternoon, again, no surprise, rejected Iran's counteroffer to the White House. It does seem like he's a little bit pissed about it. He truthed about it, saying that it is what was it? Totally unacceptable. Here it is. And then he told Axios that it was not only unacceptable, but inappropriate. Not happy. But the big question, of course, is like, what happens now? Do we start bombing them again? Do we pack up and go home? Do they just claim victory and sort of, get everyone back? There are a bunch of hawks that are pushing for more military action. Lindsey Graham wants us to, quote, restart Project Freedom. And not only that, but go further to use the Navy to actually pry open the Strait of Hormuz. And he's not the only one. There's a bunch of Republicans out there sort of advocating for this. And Sean, you have said, like, if you draw a line and if they step over the line, right? Like, you've got to act. So the question, I guess, is we know what you think he should do, but like, what do you think the White House is going to do? Are they going to escalate here, or
I have not been a big believer that they would escalate until last night. I think the president has now seen over and over again that they didn't even notice, or acknowledge uranium in the response. And even here's the thing. So Chris Wright, the energy secretary, was on the Sunday shows. It made it very clear. Like, again, this is where I've been looking for daylight. If they started to slide on uranium, then I would say, okay, they've got to get a deal. Like, this is where they're just begging for a deal. They're not. And this is where I believe that the president's finally getting pushed into the area of, Mr. President, you've given them every opportunity. They're not taking it. So I believe that they've worn out their welcome. And I would not be surprised to see bombing resume, in the next 48, 72 hours.
Dan, Democrats would welcome that, probably from a political standpoint, right? That means gasoline is going to continue to be $5 a gallon.
I think what they're going to try to do is see if they can cut a deal in China. And that the interesting thing is this whole summit, which Sean has talked about now going back to March of 2025, you've always said at first it was the fall, then it was going to be the sprint, like that they were going to have some sort of big summit in China. Now the question is, what does China get potentially for helping to open this? I think if that conversation fails, then, I think Trump's due back Friday evening late to the United States. So sorry to get ahead of what to watch.
I was going to say, Sean, do you think they can get some sort of agreement?
I mean, Dan's got a good point. I don't think that they're going to want to do anything while they're traveling to China, because that's definitely, but I do think, as you can see, everybody, we talked about this a month ago when the first trip was supposed to take it on, maybe 2 months ago, this whole Taiwan issue, and the nuance is going to matter. Every word is going to get parsed, what is said with respect to Taiwan. But if I can go back to Iran for one last thing, I think the other X factor is, if you listen to what Prime Minister Netanyahu has been talking about, these guys, that they're very focused in Israel on making sure that uranium is gone. And they're putting a lot of pressure. There's talk that Bibi might fly over here one more time. I would keep an eye on, they've been relatively quiet. But the other thing is, there was a massive concession that Netanyahu made that is not getting attention anywhere else. In an interview, he said that it is their goal in Israel to wean themselves off of the support that America gives Israel, the defense support. He said, it's about time that we started weaning ourselves off. That was, in my opinion, a massive concession to lawmakers here, which is to say, hey, just finish this up, get us secure, and then we can start taking care of ourselves more. That to me, I don't think people, I was so shocked that there was not more coverage of this. This idea of them, I mean, it was basically like, hey, let us get this thing done in Iran. Let us take the threat away, and then we won't need as much of your money to protect ourselves anymore. That went unnoticed. And I'm telling you, there was a reason he said it. And I think that was to signal to lawmakers, I just need you to stick with me for a little while longer.
Let me just ask you both something. Netanyahu, who, if history is a guide, every time he comes here, something big tends to happen shortly thereafter. Trump is sensitive to the argument that Israel dragged us into this, okay? Netanyahu comes to the United States because the next step, Sean, if we're getting the uranium, is somebody is going in on the ground, right? It's not coming out from a bomb from above anymore. If you're Trump, that is a massive risk to be seen with Netanyahu again and then take action. Sure looks like you're getting led by the nose.
Well, that's why we'll see if he comes. I mean, I think for that reason,
I can't imagine he would come.
Yeah.
I think Susie and James Blair say, no.
Let them do the hard work, and then
also, like, you don't need to come here. We can do a phone call.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. All right. I want to get to China first, but before you do, just something else that I'm going to do today. I'm going to be going to allfamilypharmacy.com/huddle because this is day 5 that Rachel has been sick. So why haven't I done it before then? I don't know, guys. Anytime I get sick, I forget to go in and get medicines. And, I just sort of think it's going to go away, but it's not going away. So today I'm going to be taking advantage of their Mother's Day sale. Again, they've got this 35% off their entire website, May 7th through 11th. Today is the last day you can do that. Again, allfamilypharmacy.com/huddle. Again, if you're not familiar with it, we've talked about them on the show. It's medicine made easy, right? You don't have to go to the doctor, make an appointment, drive to the doctor's office, explain what your symptoms are and get some medication. Well, you don't even get the medication at the doctor's office. Then you got to go to the pharmacy. You got to take your prescription. You got to wait in line. You got to get your medication. Then you bring it home. They make it a lot easier. You just go online, you type in what's going on with you. A licensed professional looks at it and they send the prescription straight to your house. So I'm going to be giving this a try today because I still have, a lot of stuff going on with congestion here. So we will be doing that. But on a more fun note, okay, Mother's Day, we all got our loved ones Cozy Earth. Yep. Who's taking this ad? I can't remember.
I have it. Yeah.
We all have stuff we could talk about. Yeah. But Dan, go for it.
I mean, look, not one, not two, but three. Now that the day has passed, my wife got Cozy Earth pajamas, 2 sets because her old ones had some holes in it, but a great pink pair and a pair of like blue, like a paisley pattern. She loves both of them. My mother finally got her bubble blanket. She's happy as a clam. And my mother-in-law, I mean, look, all politics is local. You got to take care of your spouse, and then you cannot have an upset mother-in-law if you know what's good for you. So I got my mother-in-law the bubble blanket. She too loved it. So it was a very Cozy Earth Mother's Day across my family. And we had a lot of folks here yesterday. And so we had some candles going last night because we had a lot of food in the house, and some of them, some people don't like certain smells. So we had the candles going, but Cozy Earth can take care of you for almost every holiday, but it's a great place to go, CozyEarth.com. You want to use our code HUDDLE, but the pajamas, the joggers, the t-shirts, candles, face masks, I mean, they have it all. Forget Costco, go to CozyEarth.com. You can take care of your needs.
Yeah, you guys are going to be hearing about our mom's reaction to Cozy Earth products all week. So you'll
absolutely
be excited about that. Okay, let's go to China. So the president heads to China later this week to meet with Xi Jinping. It's the first meeting in China. First time he's done this since for a decade or something.
2017.
Like that. Yes, 2017. That's right.
First time he's gone to China. Yeah,
right. They've met since then, but to China. It seems like the White House is super excited about this, but obviously you mentioned this looming over all of this is going to be the war with Iran, China's influence with the regime there. And of course, the president being, a businessman first, he's going to be bringing some top corporate executives, see what sort of deals they can be striking. Before we get into what they're hoping to achieve and what we can actually expect to come from this visit, Sean, can you just talk about the leverage of both men going into this meeting? Because I mean, the Supreme Court has knocked down the president's tariff regimes, right? That was, a big blow to him there. She obviously knows that we need his help ending the war in Iran, but at the same time, we've got that blockade, right? That is the choke point for a lot of their oil. So just talk about the going into negotiations, the standing of both of these powerful men.
The first thing I'd just say before that even is just the logistics. When the president went to Saudi in his first trip, the pomp and circumstance was off the chart. I mean, they had his face on build. It was, and I traveled during the Bush administration because I was the assistant U.S. trade rep to the G8, to APAC, ASEAN, all these, and it was not, I mean, what Saudi did over there to Trump was amazing. I believe the Chinese are going to step it up to a level that's unbelievable. They can do this better than anybody, probably. So I think that's the charm effect is going to be on full display. But you're right. I mean, both men have something the other needs and then leverage on the other person. So China's got rare earth minerals that we desperately need. They buy a lot of our ag products, which is a critical constituency for the president. So there's a lot of stuff that we would like China to do. Conversely, obviously, they need us to do a lot of stuff. Their economy does need us as a market. And so the tariffs are important. The oil is critical to their well-being, and they get the bulk of what comes out of the Hormuz Strait over there. So there's a lot that each of us needs the other for. And it will be interesting because, and then obviously, as I said, the big takeaway that a lot of people are going to be watching is the nuances on how we talk about Taiwan. And I know AOC doesn't understand strategic ambiguity, which is how we deal with Taiwan. But all those little nuances when it comes to foreign policy, the exact words you use. I mean, we always had China was a responsible stakeholder. Great Britain is a special relationship. Those all matter. And the slightest change signals a shift in policy. So it will be critical how we talk about China in particular. But I'm actually just interested because I think, to be honest with you, even keeping this relationship alive and warm is probably the biggest thing that we can be doing. Like us two having those face to face, and it's not just the principal to principal. Like, you remember, there's a point at which the red phone in the Pentagon, they weren't picking up, right? Having that dialogue all the way down to the mill to mill level is critical for our two nations, and so continuing that relationship and building it is going to be big.
Sean, you mentioned Taiwan. It sounds like there are some foreign policy types who are straight petrified that she is going to get the president to back off on Taiwan or make some sort of concessions in order to get a deal with Iran. Well, Dan, first of all, jump into that. Is that a fear like Democrats share? And then I'm curious, Sean, if you think he would actually do that. But Dan, go ahead.
Sure, of course they do, because Trump's unpredictable. And I think everything to him is a transaction. And so, I think the question is, what would he get on some level? But do people fear that he would trade that off? Sure. I don't think he would publicly pronounce, I just gave up Taiwan and they're buying $1 trillion of soybeans. But I think behind the scenes, there would absolutely be a worry. I think the bigger worry, though, is when this was first talked about, there was more, I think, of the sense of this would be an equal footing. Like, all right, let's see them box together. And as Sean noted, they need us, we need them. Trump's kind of, again, unpredictable, and he's pretty good on his feet to some extent. Now I think the worry is we need them more than they need us. If you just stacked up everything on a yellow legal pad on one side versus the other. And the biggest thing is we want their help on Iran. And that, I think the question is just, what is Trump going to do? I'm also really curious. The Chinese like everything staged. And how does Trump react? What are the questions in a press conference? I mean, you could imagine most of the questions are about Iran. And I think he'll be prickly about this. And if you're the Chinese and you see a US president getting hot with his own media, kind of, arguing with them and yelling at them, how does Trump handle that? The optics of all of this, because the Chinese, again, they like everything controlled.
Sean, do you think he changes policy toward Taiwan, or would he just not go there?
I think, look, this isn't like it's happening in a vacuum. His advisors, everybody has prepped him this a million times and told him what the consequences of any shift would be. And it's not just a quid pro quo, like, oh, it's a little island off the coast of China. I mean, this is literally control of the South China Sea.
Right.
And so the military folks, Dan Kane, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and others are going to make it very clear how important that the freedom of navigation, et cetera, is in that area of the world. So I think that the one thing these foreign policy experts don't fully appreciate is the guy's not a dummy. It's not like he's like, really, Taiwan's important. So I think that this is what they all wet their pants over, but there's not going to be a real, I don't think so.
Just very quickly to you both, what do you think, like, what are the deliverables that they come out of the room with? Like, is it just they're going to buy more ag products and we're going to, trade with them on this and this? Like, is there something bigger that you think they actually?
Here's the problem. It's Groundhog's Day. How many times have we heard they're going to buy more ag products, and then 4 months later we heard they're not buying them all? Right. I mean, that's just it's like the Iranians. They're hard to. I also think the Chinese sit there and think you're out of office in 3 years.
So basically, so it's going to be pointless.
One, I would just say this: that's the right question to ask right now, which is because the deliverables in my mind, as long as we can walk out of there with the relationship building in a positive way, that's a plus, right? That to me is, and I know many people don't see it, but when you don't have a healthy dialogue between those two nations, you're in trouble. So I do think that that's, to me, the win. Secondly, if I had to say what's probably win plus, it's we take some tariffs down, they buy rare earth, they provide rare earth and make some commitment on ag. That would be the win.
You know what the interesting thing is? That is a circular conversation, which is you have not advanced a single thing from when you came into office. It's the arsonist fireman. I created all these fires, and I give me credit that I put them out. That, to me, that would be, and if I'm a 2028er and that's victory, watch Rahm Emanuel, because I would start taunting Trump the way, as Japanese ambassador, he taunted the Chinese, which is, this is what you got us? All of this, big guy? That's not good, Sean.
All right, let's move on to AOC, because we're at 10 minutes out still.
Speaking of foreign policy wizard. Yep.
Ouch, that's a pretty good one, Dan. So as always, there's a ton of chatter about what she's going to do. Some people are saying that in this interview she did with David Axelrod at the University of Chicago Institute of Politics, that she sort of cracked the door open to a presidential run. I have to say that I'm not sure that I sort of read it that way. It seemed like a dodge to me, but let's bring it up and play what she said when she was asked about running for president.
Funny, because in this op-ed that Jeff Bezos paid for in the Washington Post, there was this line that you had mentioned earlier about, well, as a potential 2028 contender, XYZ. And in the context of that, it was very clear this was a veiled threat, right? So it was the elite saying, if you want this job, you just stepped out of line. And we want you to know where the real power is. And it's in the modern day barons who own the Post and own the algorithms, and we'll make an example out of you. And what's funny about that is that they assume that my ambition is positional. They assume that my ambition is a title or a seat. And my ambition is way bigger than that. My ambition is to change this country. And presidents come and go, Senate, House seats, elected officials come and go, but single-payer health care is forever. A living wage is forever. Workers' rights are forever. Women's rights, all of that. And so, anyways, the way, but
we can jump
I think we've seen enough.
Yeah. I was going to say, just to explain, because we jumped into that in a place I did not realize we were going to jump into. She was talking about criticism she got from the Washington Post editorial board, because she had actually said in a podcast that you cannot earn $1 billion. Like, you just can't, suggesting that nobody should be allowed to do that. The Post editorial board hit back at her, basically chiding her for saying that, suggesting that if she wants to win in 2028, you can't have those sort of positions. And she was talking about that in response to 2028. Dan, how did you take her answer? Like, did you take that as her opening the door, or was it just...
No, but what I did find interesting is she was criticized 2 weeks ago that she does not talk to the media very much, that she gives these little snippets on Capitol Hill, kind of crossing the, back, or technically the front of the Capitol. And then not only did she sit with David Axelrod, but she did some other podcasters here in the last 72 hours. Look, love her or hate her, she's a good political athlete. Like, you do listen to her. She looked very comfortable in that interview versus in Munich when, she looked a little more uncomfortable. And just take her out of it, because some people hate her and some people love her. What her message is very similar to Donald Trump's a little bit, right? Which is the rich. People don't want me, right? Trump's was the elite don't want me. Rupert Murdoch back in 2015, Sean, right? Fox doesn't want me. All these people are against me, but I'm for you. Trump's was, we're going to make America great again. Hers is fundamental change. I think if you're a progressive, she speaks to you in that. And so I do still think that she will ultimately decide to run for office, because this is her moment. There's no other heir to the Bernie Sanders movement right now. And if you don't run and somebody else fills it, you may never get it back. So I do think she goes, but not because of this answer.
Sean, jump in.
I mean, I thought it is, one, a little egotistical, and two, to be blunt, I thought it was stupid. You can't achieve policy goals if you're not in office and you don't have power. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, I can't create. I mean, if one of us wants to push for, I mean, you actually have to get a vote or be president. I mean, like, so the idea of her saying, like, those don't matter. What matters is like, how do you think you'll achieve it? I mean, we all know it. And it was a silly throwaway line.
It's very politician-y in my view.
It was sort of like, I don't know, but it also just,
not answer.
To me, it was like a dumb answer, because it's like, how are you going to make change if you're not in the system? Right. And
Sean, you don't think to take you put your comms hat on, that people think she is aware that people kind of belittle her. You're young, you're a bartender, you're a congresswoman, you're too progressive, all of this. Do you not think it's smart politics picking a fight and saying they control everything? They control the power. They don't want me, which is to say they don't want you. Single payer.
But you just said it better than she did. Okay, so
you said it well.
Yeah. So no, I mean, but there's the way she said it was, to me, like it was dismissive and silly and just devoid of reality, which is, if you want to make the change. In fact, I would have combined what you just said and said, look, you know what I want to do? I actually want to achieve big things to make the world a better place, to make America, blah, 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 these progressive things. And so I have yet to figure out how I'm going to do it. But the reality is that I'm going to pursue these things that will ensure that, because these guys don't get to decide stuff. Just because you have $1 billion and can buy a newspaper doesn't mean you can shut me up. I mean, I thought it was just so arrogant, egotistical, and dismissive of the system. For those reasons, I'm out.
I was going to say, I'm a little bit between you both. Like, I thought her answer was very like talking points. I wouldn't be surprised if she's come up with that before and has been waiting for the right time to use it, because she's always asked about, is she going to run for president? At the same time, I think she's good at delivering. Like, I think, like, as you said, Dan, when she speaks, people listen. And I think she's very good at, foreign policy aside, where clearly she's very uncomfortable. I think she's
wow. But you know what, though, guys, you're all saying she should name me one politician who ever at this point has jumped forward and said, yeah, you're right. Of course not. They all do this.
Yeah.
No. It's not. I agree with you, but it's how you do it.
All right. Well, let's take some questions, guys. We'll keep an eye on her, as always. Okay. What do we have here today from?
Boy, that's succinct.
That's succinct. Yeah. So if everyone doesn't know, Secretary Mark Kelly was on, I believe it was Face the Nation yesterday, and basically said that, was asked about his critique of the war and everything, and he went into what he has been briefed on with respect to the impact that this war in Iran has had. By the way, just as a side note, I'm so fascinated that everyone in the media cares about the impact of the Iranian war on munitions, but never cared about the same impact on the munitions from giving Ukraine all of these weapons for years. So that's my personal side. But Hegseth then, as you can see there, tweeted out, Captain, in quote, Mark Kelly strikes again. Now he's blabbing on TV falsely and dumbly about a classified Pentagon briefing he received. Did he violate his oath again? Department of War legal counsel will review. So, because Kelly basically revealed the number and types of munitions that he had been told by the Pentagon were in question, depleted, etc., and he named them all. So I again, if that was the derivation of a classified briefing, that would be a problem. I don't know the level.
But how can it be both false and classified at the same time?
Huh?
How can it be both false and classified at the same time? Here,
yeah. I mean, again, it could, because it can be a mix. You could say that we're depleted in Tomahawks, but not, THAADs. And so, like, he could have mixed and mingled what was discussed in that classified briefing. So you can have both. That's not an issue. But the idea is, where did he get his information? If it came out of that briefing and the level was classified, that would have been an issue.
So Dan, is this a new case against him, or is this just, going to be part of the one already?
Just it's the gift that keeps on giving to Mark Kelly. And I will just, that tweet from the Secretary of War or Defense, it's just, you shake your head. It's just, it's unbelievable. I mean, it is becoming, it is the reality TV version of being Secretary of War, falsely and dumbly. And he's blabbing. I mean, it's just so undignified. And for Pete Hegseth, who we have talked about some of those press conferences as being so ridiculous, for him running his mouth and making statements that are just comical, that, by the way, with time have looked even more absurd. Remember a month ago when, like, we had already won, we're dominating everything. Like,
Maybe I'm immune to it. This does not surprise me at all. Zero.
No, I mean, look, it just, if you're Mark Kelly, you say, thank you, sir. Can I have another? Keep attacking me.
Let's take another question. We're at 9:30 here. All right, Republican lady, good morning. Question for Sean. Does the Indiana results suggest that Thomas Massey will lose in the primary? Did Massey blow it by teaming up so closely with Ro Khanna? Is Khanna overexposed at
a lot of questions?
Yeah.
It's a great question. I think one of the things you saw in Indiana, and we pointed out this, that like, I think they're currently at 5 of 7. One of them they didn't endorse, so I don't think you can count that one. But I think it's a good question. Massey is definitely ingratiated in that district in Kentucky, but there's a lot of people who are pissed. I think this time is a little bit different. The candidate that they have is a lot more credible, a lot more raising a lot more money, etc. I don't know. I mean, I think and polling in a primary is always extremely tough. I think that if they're going to get Massey, this is the time they get him. Like, this is where I think right now, I wouldn't be surprised if he loses. Because the sort of the political headwinds have aligned in this time. So I don't know. There's no polling that I would, except for internal, and you're not going to get that.
I spoke to someone last week about this who's well positioned and following it very closely and trying to get him out. And the read that I got was like that they feel very confident that they're going to get him out. So I mean, I was surprised by that, but I can just tell you the level of confidence in the Trump orbit is pretty high at this point that they're going to get him. All right, guys, we are at 9.
Well, Dan, do you want to comment that if he teamed up?
I to your point, it's so hard to know.
Right. I don't think that would have been, by the way, that he teamed up with Roe was not the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah. No, I don't. And is Khanna overexposed? Is there such a thing these days as overexposed? I don't, I don't think so.
This person was saying, though, that him teaming up with Dems and taking money from Dems was a factor and going to be a problem. So I don't know. We'll see.
That's good. Interesting.
Okay. We're at, like I said, 9:32. Sean, what do you got coming up today?
Pollster Robert Cahaly is going to break down the latest in the Senate races and how the issue of affordability is playing in. Plus, not last call, but getting close. Remember, Friday night, free event at the Kennedy Center to talk about Trump 2.0 and come up on the roof if you want. All those tickets are available at SeanSpicer.com.
And guess who will also be there? Woo! Yay! It's going to be
there. You
go. Okay, guys, we will see you tomorrow at 8:30. Happy Monday, all.
Thank you.